Hello. Thank you for waiting. I know we're getting to the end of the day, and I appreciate those of you who've hung around for the future of privacy. My name is Michael Fertik. The name of my talk is The Future of Privacy, How the Internet's going to Strike Back Against the Internet. One of the premises of my discussion is that the Internet has created a privacy problem. I think in Europe there's an instinct to solve this problem through regulation. There's an instinct to solve this problem through lawmaking. And I definitely have an American perspective on this problem and how to solve it, which is through technology. So actually, as you're going to see, my main job today is to encourage you to start a privacy company and to pitch you on the size of the privacy market, or otherwise, if you're an investor, to invest in privacy companies, perhaps chiefly here in Europe, and help us build the privacy economy. The privacy economy is a pretty simple concept. If you take a step back and you go to 10,000 meters on what the internet is good at so far today, we understand that the internet is basically good at advertising, right? There's one trick that entrepreneurs really know very well on the internet. It's to get people to use something free, collect their data, and sell their data. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with that conceptually. There may be something wrong with it if we're doing it without the permission and full knowledge and consent of users, but that's basically what we know how to do today. And the venture guys know how to invest in those companies because they know that the entrepreneurs know how to build the products, that the users will use them, and that there are always people who will buy data, that data brokers will always suck up and acquire as much data as they possibly can get their hands on. The only legitimate counterweight to this very powerful economy of data mining and data collection is a privacy economy. My company, Reputation.com, is very much part of this privacy economy, which is why I think we've been asked to talk today, but I'm encouraging as many companies to get started as possible. I definitely have a Silicon Valley orientation towards this. I don't believe it's competitive. I think it's mostly collaborative. So here's my pitch to you to start your privacy company. There's a huge new problem in the world today. The internet is amassing everything about us from lots of different sources and putting lots of different data in different databases without our knowledge or consent, whether it's from our mobile phones, whether it's from our cars that are transmitting information now, our laptops, the apps on our mobile phones. All of these sources of data, every part of our lives is now being data mined and data collected without our knowledge or consent. It's a very invasive process. This is a cover story of Time magazine, which you may know is a very big magazine in the US. It's a cover story from a few months ago, and every one of those little post-it notes shows a different piece of information that can be found about each and every one of us without our knowledge or consent, with just a little bit of poking around the internet. It's a huge amount of information that can be found and aggregated about us without our knowledge or consent. And by the way, this is a problem that people care a lot about. In Europe, I think you know that you care about it more than we do in the US, but even so, there's a point of view among the venture community and the startup community in Europe that people do not care enough about privacy to pay for it, and that's why they should not start companies that are focused on privacy. Let me give you some data. 90% of people believe that privacy is a critical issue. 9 in 10 adults are concerned with the security of their personal info on the web. I love this one. This is from UK people only, British people only. Half of adults would like to erase 100% of everything that's been published about them ever on the internet. Whether they published it themselves or someone else published it for them, they'd like to have a fully clean slate, 100%. And then some people say, okay, look, if you ask someone if they like privacy or they care about privacy, it might be like asking them if they care about diabetes or the rainforest. The answer is always yes, right? So they ask, is this survey baked? And here's a survey that answers that question. When you ask, this is a survey of Americans, I believe. When you ask Americans, what's your biggest daily concern? The second biggest daily concern that they offer you is online privacy. So it's even without being prompted, they offer this response. I love this one. Almost 100% of consumers want more control over how much data is being shared about them on their mobile phones. Now, that's both about what kind of data is being transmitted about them from the phone itself, and about what kind of data is being collected from apps. If you give them the chance, they'd love the control. 80% want strong consumer protections. They're more concerned about their privacy than they are about healthcare, crime, and taxes. Consistently, we see this. Only 14% of web users would opt into advertising targeting. Only 14%. Imagine the wealth that you can create if you can give web users control over whether they are going to be ad targeted on the internet. There's this big myth that the advertisers would like to tell us that people love getting more relevant ads. If you give them a choice, they do not want to be targeted. So imagine the technologies you can build to help control the targeting that's happening. And this is possibly my favorite statistic of all time that I've ever shown in a professional context. Because how many times in your career can you show 100% of anything in a survey? Well, Columbia University did a study. You know Columbia University probably. It's a very big university in America. Columbia University did a study of Facebook users. And of those surveyed, 100% had a mistaken impression about what their privacy settings were doing on Facebook. 100%. Very powerful survey. And by the way, I believe this survey was done of college students who are presumably much more web savvy and much more technically savvy than your average consumer. And there are so many more data points. Over and over and over again, we see that the data point in one direction and one direction only. People care about privacy very deeply. So we've created a bit of a monster in our current environment. This is a cartoon from the New Yorker magazine. In America, there's a tradition of kids in the summer setting up little lemonade stands, and they sell the lemonade, right? And in this cartoon, the kids are selling the lemonade, and the adults are coming by the lemonade stand, and they're saying, well, the lemonade's free, but they sell your information. The idea is we've created a whole monster around data collection and data sale without the knowledge or permission of the consumer. This creates a problem that I call radical exposure, which, by the way, I think is the bookend or the completed thought, the answer to radical transparency. Some believe in radical transparency. It's a very valuable asset and a very valuable virtue for a lot of the internet. But we can also believe that there's a problem with that radical exposure of too much of our information is undesirable. And that's opening a very big business opportunity as we're seeing. Today, forever and from now on, everything about us is going to be data mined, and our lives are inexorably going to be connected unavoidably to the internet. People are feeling a lot of pain, they're feeling helpless, and it's a big mess. And guess what? There's no do-it-yourself market. You can't solve this problem on a do-it-yourself basis. You can't solve the problem of internet privacy by yourself. There are very small parts you can solve if you're willing to invest the time and the energy, but otherwise you cannot solve the problem. You need a sheriff. In fact, this is why I'm talking to you guys, you need a very, very smart sheriff, and I hope that all of you who are very smart people will go build very smart technologies and very smart companies that will go enhance privacy and data security for consumers. And we've seen this rodeo twice before. Some people are concerned that the privacy economy is too new as a concept. We've actually seen this movie twice before. So if you go back to the first phase of the internet in the 1990s, in the 1990s, we saw the growth of the basic infrastructure of the web. We saw the growth of the machines, the switches, and the nodes that built up the internet. And then we saw a series of threats to those machines, switches, and nodes. And we saw hundreds of billions of dollars of value created in companies built specifically to address those threats. All of us today benefit from the technologies that those who came before us built for us to protect the digital infrastructure of the actual internet. Phase 2 of the internet, the second wave of this movie, was the rise of e-commerce in the late 90s and the 2000s. Amazon, eBay, buying and selling on the web. We saw a rise of threats to those digital transactions on the internet, a rise of huge threats. And in fact, according to Europol, digital crime is the fastest and one of the largest and most lucrative sources of crime still in Europe. We know that there were built in response to these threats enormous companies and tens of billions of value that were created for shareholders and founders and investors in building companies up that were specifically meant to address the digital transactions. PayPal essentially is a transaction proofing technology, a terrific technology. And I believe and I maintain, and I'm encouraging you to adopt the point of view, that we are going to see the same trend now with social computing. Phase 3 of the web is a movie we've seen before. We were building the internet, the guts of the internet. We were building the transactions on the internet. And now our entire lives are on the internet. And we are going to need a set of technologies to protect our lives across the line on the internet. Let me give you some concrete examples of some technologies that are in the marketplace today They happen to be ones I know well, but I'm pointing them out because there are very concrete ways that entrepreneurs like you can tackle very concrete, specific parts of the internet. The first one has to do with what you call PII. That's personally identifiable information. There are other acronyms for it in other languages. But PII is all the data about us that can be found about our personal lives. Now, here's a website that is a people search website that's from America. And I want to point out to you that on this website, anybody in the world can look you up and find out your age, your income level, your house value, your religion, your politics, your family members' names, your zodiac sign, how much money you used to make, how much money you're going to make. All of these things have been aggregated from different parts of the internet, and they're there for anybody to see. And by the way, there are many websites like this in the US. They're growing here in Europe. Some of you actually may be interested in some of them. And there are a series of technologies now that will automatically take you out of these databases. Now, by the way, some of these databases are set up specifically to take you out, but then put you back in. Take you out, put you back in. So you need some technologies to take you out and keep you out. And there's a technology now that does that, something that people can build. Another terrific technology that we can talk about, and I've seen different takes on this topic in different places. This happens to be one example. These are screenshots from encrypted conversations happening on Facebook. Facebook does not have the content that people are sharing here on the wall posts, and Facebook does not have the photographs. The photographs and the content on the wall posts are being encrypted from Facebook in this free application. This is a freely distributable application that's now being used by people all around the planet, including dissidents in some of the countries that don't want the authorities to know what they're saying on Facebook. And every piece of content that's out there is fully encrypted via a plugin. And if your friends have the plugin, they see it automatically. They see it easily. They see it seamlessly the way they would if they were just simply your friend on Facebook and not also using this free app. What else is cool about this technology? Well, this technology also allows you to set an expiration date for all of your content. So let's say that you're being a little bit aggressive with your social posting in college, but you know your graduation date, and you know you might have to button yourself up a little bit after you graduate. Well, you can set everything you do to have an expiration date, a nuclear explosion date on your graduation day, so that everything you've ever posted gets locked up automatically. I've seen a few different takes on this theme. There's a technology in Germany that seems to do some similar stuff. But this is the kind of technology that people are hungry for. If you make it available, they download it by the millions. There's an enormous market for you to address. One of the frequent complaints I hear from European entrepreneurs is that the markets that they're tackling for their products are not large enough. The market for privacy is enormous. The market for different components of what you can do by giving people and end users control over their data is very huge. Look behind me and see all these enormous sets of opportunities for each of us, and I don't believe that this is a competitive market yet. I believe this is a collaborative market. As you find your companies getting built and you're tackling one piece of the privacy problem, you'll find there are enormous collaborative responses and opportunities for the other companies that are getting started up and building their privacy businesses. My company has raised now $67 million, and we're generally viewed as the leader in the space. But I can tell you this, there are others coming, and it's very welcome. In order to make this very successful, in order to satisfy this enormous demand from around the world, we need to build a privacy economy that will be very, very large. So I say to you, please start your engines. I hope you will build your businesses, invest in your businesses, build your products, invest in those products, and you'll have enormous success. Thank you very much to LeWeb. Thanks very much. I don't know if they know backstage that I'm finished. Am I supposed to take a question? I don't think I need to. Do you want anyone want to ask a question? We have like 3 minutes. Yeah? Otherwise, I can give you back the time, which may be the best gift that a speaker can do. I'll give you back the time. Thank you, guys. Hang on, let me tell them that we're finished.